Welcome to the 19th ESC Every Soldier Counts podcast.
Wherever you find American troops today, you find the men of the Transportation Corps. Enough and on time. That's the story we tell you today. The story of the Army Quartermaster Corps.
These youthful servicemen are members of the Army's Military Police Corps.
One of the most important forces behind the lines, the Army Ordnance Corps.
Welcome to the 19th ESC Every Soldier Counts podcast. I am Sergeant First Class Adam Ross, Public Affairs NCOIC for 19th Expeditionary Sustainment Command, coming to you from Camp Henry, Republic of Korea. And with me today, we have a very special guest. We have Staff Sergeant Seth Browning, who has an interesting story to tell and an interesting habit he's picked up here in Korea. You produce... Would you call them training videos, or what do you call them?
Yeah, just instructional videos for operators.
Okay, and like we'll get into it a little bit later, but Sergeant Browning has really embraced the kind of virtual training environment that we were kind of forced into with the COVID pandemic. But really, it's a great product, and we'll get into it a little bit later. First, I want to hear some more about you, Sergeant Browning. What brought you to the Army? Tell us about what your job is.
Well, I mean, probably the same thing that brought most people to the Army, the Patriot card. You know, I was a teen or young adult whenever the towers fell, so I just wanted to serve. My dad was, in the Army as well, so just followed in his footsteps. The only one of four brothers that did. I was a reservist first, which hence the patch.
Okay.
Most people like, I've never seen that patch, and yeah, it's a reserves patch from my first deployment.
If you could move just a little bit more. Yeah, there you go. Yep. Okay, so you enlisted shortly after 9/11?
I came in 2007. I was way too young at that.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say, you don't look that.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's a good thing.
And so you were an 88 Mike, or you're...
No, I am an 88
okay.
Mike, yeah.
Okay.
I joined as an 88 Mike and kept it even when I came on active duty.
So that was when you must have deployed probably around 2007? 2008. That was a dangerous time for 88 Mikes back then.
Third most dangerous job in the Army is what they told us, and still remains the same. Like,
yeah,
I remember at AIT they were always like, "Yeah, this is a terrible job," and I was like, "That's not what the recruiter said." And of course they were like, "Yeah, well, he lied."
So did you always want to become an instructor, or was that something that you kind of picked up later? Your interest in it?
Yeah, like when I started like looking at what my future was, I definitely wanted to go either be drill or instructor. The recruiter life just wasn't for me.
And so, what was that like then? Because to become an instructor, they probably have like an instructor training course is it Fort Leonard Wood?
It is.
Okay. So, what can you tell me about the instructor course?
The instructor course itself it's like most military schools are. It just teaches you the basics. I mean, the 4 pillars of learning and things like that. And I had picked up a little bit, and I kind of like planned how I wanted to. But out there at AIT, everything is lesson plan driven. It gives you a little flexibility to teach what you want, but not a lot.
And so, did it live up to your expectations, like the instructor life?
Absolutely. I enjoyed every single day on the pad. If I could have just showed up to work, gone to the pad, taught the students, and left, I would have retired there. I wouldn't need to change jobs ever. I would have stayed right there.
And so before we get into kind of what you've been doing now with the training material, so what is the curriculum for 88 Mike soldiers? What are the main things they're learning at AIT?
It changes frequently, but when I left there, they were... focusing on trying to teach the students more about PMCS because of the generational gap. They've noticed that the soldiers coming into the Army now just don't know as much about working on vehicles or the mechanics of them. So they're trying to dive a little deeper into that. Obviously, the operations of the systems never change. Everything on the vehicle they learn. The 2 platforms, the LHS, PLS, HEMTT platform, and then they go to 915 for the truck and trailer combination.
So how long was that course?
For 88 mics, 6 weeks.
Okay. And so you come to Korea after that, or?
Yep, directly.
Okay. And so what was your initial thoughts when you found out you'd be coming to Korea?
I was happy. I actually requested to come here.
Oh, really?
My grandfather, he had served in Korea. I went to Fort Knox where he had served. I came here where he served. My dad always spoke great about this place. I was like, well, why not just revisit all those places they did? Join the Army to travel.
So your dad and grandpa were in Korea?
Right.
Okay, wow. So third generation Browning in Korea. Your father, you said your father was a soldier as well? Okay, interesting. And so tell us a little bit about what you do at Camp Carroll.
I'm with 95th Trans over there. We are a fuel operations unit. We issue bulk fuel to a lot of the units here in the Area 4.
And so really, I think of Camp Carroll, a lot of the units there are kind of the hub for transportation around the peninsula. So I imagine like all these big transportation missions, they involve you guys quite a bit.
Absolutely. Right? You know, we've had some units stop in on the way from like Camp Casey to get some refuel and things like that, or do a quick stop for mechanical issues that have come.
And so let's get into a little bit about how you got on our radar. Sergeant Major Skelton told me about, he said, I have this NCO who's making these excellent YouTube videos about training. I'm like, I never really heard about that before. So I looked up your videos and I was really impressed with what they are. So let's talk about where did the idea for that originally come from for you?
When I was an instructor, we didn't have anything like video related. Everything is instructor given. Every time that they receive anything, it's from an instructor. But we didn't have any visual tools. So as instructors, we had to explain thoroughly, sometimes just overabundance of information to help that one student learn. And then the rest of them are just sitting there like, okay, I get it. And I had one student, he just could not understand the backing of a trailer. Couldn't understand the science of it. I make the joke that if Jesus took the wheel, he still would have had trouble parking it. But he said, I can't imagine what you're explaining to me. I just can't picture it in my mind. And I was like, okay, here's what I'll do. We hit lunch break. I went out to the vehicle and I just recorded on my cell phone while driving, and I used my finger and I pointed at it on the cell phone video. And then after lunch, gave him the cell phone video, let him watch it, and he was like, oh. And you could see that light bulb moment, and it happens a lot. Once he's seen it, he was able to drive backwards, use the actual like reference point that I had gave him, and it helped him. He increased like 2 to 3 minutes just off of that. We have a 10-minute time standard. He was able to go from not being able to park it at all to like right around 7-minute time frame, and then after 2 or 3 more times, he was parking it proficiently. And he had mentioned that the video helped, and I was like, okay, well, every time I do something to learn, I look it up on YouTube. I'm a millennial. Why not? Everybody does. If you don't know how to find something on your car or fix something on your car, YouTube it is. And I looked around. I was like, we don't have that here. Let's start doing that. And it kind of grew from there.
And so the material, and then your channel is called, what's the name of your channel?
Right now it's just my name, Seth Browning.
Seth Browning, okay. But your videos are kind of modeled off after how you would do your instructor course, your teacher courses at Fort Leonard Wood?
Some of them are, because a lot of them were for the AIT environment. But a lot of the ones that I'm doing now are, if we have trouble in the Motorpool with something, for example, I made the one video is how to get a wheel unstuck. Well, that literally, the idea for that dawned off of the fact that we had a lot of trucks with stuck wheels in the Motorpool, and I wanted everybody to be able to take advantage of it, not just the small group that was there with me that day.
And the videos look great. Especially for is making the material kind of compelling, because it's easy to follow, and that's not easy. As someone who makes videos for a living, partly, I know how tough that can be. So, but you told me earlier you were self-taught. So what was the learning curve like for you then when you first started making these videos?
Trial and error. It was a lot of wasted film, a lot of wasted days, trying to figure out the lighting aspect, and then going back to the research phase. It's like, okay, how can I do this better? Because I really can't provide the what I was looking for in the film that I had made. It's like too much shadow, or it just didn't come out where you could see it well. So I would look it up and see like tricks that other people had done, come back and do it again.
And you're using a GoPro camera and your cell phone?
Yep, that's it.
And then for editing software, you're using iMovie or?
Filmora Pro.
Okay.
And it works for my computer. I've got just a HP, not a Mac.
And so right now, how many videos do you have on the channel? Do you remember?
I've got 10 on there now.
But some of them have like thousands of views, I noticed. So what's been the feedback you've received on them?
All positive. I mean, I've of course, there's a few people that are, a little trolly. They'll leave something silly, and I'll hide that comment or something because it doesn't pertain to any benefit. A lot of the students at AIT that watch it, they'll be like, shout out 04 truck, things like that. And I leave that. It's, whatever. It's only the bad comments that I'll be like, all right, that doesn't need to be there. I don't need people fighting in comment sections.
And so, I mean, it's helping soldiers really anywhere who can access YouTube. But have you seen an effect on your unit having those videos there? Yes.
The 5988 one, our own maintenance chief had been like, thank you for making that, because it was getting out of hand. Korea has a different environment. They're here for a year, so it's hard to get them taught and then take advantage of that, with that longevity. Normally you'll have like experienced specialists running around that have been with the unit for 3-4 years that can help. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't have that in Korea.
Another thing that made me think of, it goes back to probably your AIT days too, is that we have a lot of soldiers who really haven't been driving period for that long. I mean, that's part of the challenge too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's not an influx of missions, and that's, something.
Well, I mean, even soldiers like driving their civilian cars. I mean, if you have like a 19-year-old soldier, they really don't have that much driving experience.
No, yeah, exactly. It's AIT and then here. So their driving experience is extremely limited, and now we're putting them in large trucks.
But your videos are mostly focused on like the maintenance level?
Everything. All of it's operator level stuff. To what I can do, obviously. There are some things that, you would yell at me for.
Sure,
Don't do that. That doesn't need to be on video.
So how important is it, like as an NCO, how important is it that your soldiers all have like a really good knowledge of those basic tasks, like the PMCS and all that?
Oh, the importance is extreme. I mean, one, they need it to maintain the vehicles. Two, I mean, in combat, it would be a do or die type thing. And, for the future of their career, one day they're going to be sergeant whatever, and they need to be able to teach their Joes.
Do you bring up your combat experience a lot with your soldiers?
Not a lot. I mean, some of it's not pertinent, but as like a motivator, like, oh, here's a time that this really sucked for me, and that's why I'm teaching you now, so it doesn't have to be that for you.
And what about this might be kind of a dumb question, but like when you were going through AIT, I mean, you knew that you were going to deploy and go to a very dangerous place pretty shortly, I would think.
Oh yeah.
And so, do you think it's different for today's soldiers coming through? Maybe they don't really know what their mission is going to be when they get there.
Oh, it definitely is. I mean, working out at the AIT, you just see the difference generationally. It's like we were at the height of 2 wars or conflicts when I came in. Now there's nothing. So they're coming in for different motivations. Most of the soldiers coming through now weren't even alive on 9/11.
It's crazy to think about that.
Yeah. It is. It's kind of sad.
But let's stay on that a little bit. What are some things you learn from your soldiers now? Like, are there things that they can teach you, or maybe that how they motivate you?
I learn something from them all the time. I mean, just because I'm not super, super good with technology. So if I have trouble, for example, with Adobe, like, yeah, I can play with it and figure it out. YouTube video it and figure it out. But most of these guys, like, they're in college. You know, my college days were done. That's, 4 years since I've done any type of schooling like that. And they show me all these new things. I learned different stuff on Microsoft Word I had no idea about all the time, just as an example.
So someone else, maybe a different MOS, if they were thinking about doing something like this, what are some of the steps you'd recommend to them? Because you had to run this by legal as well, right?
Absolutely. Before you put anything on the internet, 1, dive into regulation. 2, go seek some legal guidance, because there was some things that I didn't even know that I could show that I thought would be a no-go, and then I found out that it was okay, and there was some stuff that I would have thought was okay. In one of the videos I mentioned, like, I can't show the blow-off valve. I was like, that's such an insignificant thing. I don't see why that's important. And they were like, well, it's different for these vehicles. It's not top secret, but there are certain things where, like, locations of under the vehicle can cause problems. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as part of the new public affairs regulation, they want everyone to be OPSEC level 2 before really being a webmaster at all. So that's part in the OPSEC level 2 course, you learn about certain things like that, how, in one thing by its own isn't, classified, but if you add a couple more things into that,
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about your time in Korea. So you were excited to come here because of your family legacy, but can you talk about your experience thus far in Korea, what you thought of it?
Oh, I loved it. I got here August, and the first thing that I started doing was getting off post, getting out, seeing the culture. I love traveling. If I can see a foreign country and actually be able to go enjoy the culture of it, not like a deployment where it's like, yeah, you're not enjoying the culture of that. It definitely, like, is appealing to me. And Korea is a beautiful country.
So what are some of your favorite places that you've been?
Daegu. I went to Tower 83. You can jump off of it.
Did you jump off?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was at first when I seen it, I was like, oh, bungee jumping. Aren't people afraid to, like, hit the tower, like, as it's springing around? They're like, no, it's just a cable drop. Literally a zero gravity, it lets go, and you just go straight down. I don't know how many meters it is.
Yeah, Tower 83 is at eWorld, which is the amusement park. Daegu has an amusement park, a theme park within the city. It's in the city, basically.
Yeah.
And so Camp Carroll, every time we have a guest on from Camp Carroll, I like to ask them, like, what part of what is fascinating to me about that post is that it's really in the middle of kind of Army history there with Hill 303 right there. You can see it right in your backyard. Yeah. What's the Camp Carroll and Wegwan experience like for you?
There's not much to do out there, but there is. Anybody that comes to Camp Carroll, or I'm sorry, when I was coming to Camp Carroll, people were like, it's such a small post. There's nothing to do there. It's going to suck for you. But at least Daegu's 45 minutes away. But I mean, there's go-karting out there. There's a place that has like indoor golf. You just like hit the ball and it goes against like a soft screen. There's Hill 303, for outdoorsy people. You can hike that, go up to the top. It's got the, what do they call it?
Observatory.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's a beautiful view from up there. There's another tower in Choguk, and that's on another hill to hike. The river has a river park where they actually have workout equipment. I was going there throughout the summertime more than I was going to the gym. So, I mean, it's a nice place.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about Korean culture is that you find that workout, kind of the public workout equipment really everywhere. You can go, like, my family and I went to Busan. We were on this beautiful kind of like landscaped hill. We were walking and seeing the ocean, and there was still the workout equipment there, like even on this beautiful like landscaped flowers everywhere. They have it everywhere. Like the fitness culture is really a thing here.
Oh yeah, I mean that trail runs all the way to Daegu. It's like they spared no expense to make sure like health and fitness was part of the culture.
So after Korea, then what's next on your mind? What are the next goals you're looking at?
I mean, right now I'm on orders already. Going to Fort Bliss next.
Okay.
That'll be an exciting chapter. I just checked my email today, seeing that somebody had reached out to me, actually. So,
that's good.
I'll get to contact somebody and find out what that next chapter is.
And so, are you have a family or?
I do. I have a wife.
Okay. So they're gonna move there. They're waiting for you to come back and then move there with you, or?
Oh yeah, my wife's already looking at properties.
Okay.
Like what house?
But they're not. Are they here with you now? Or?
No.
Okay. Yes, my Fort Bliss is actually my first duty station, and it's not that different from. Think of it like a supersized Camp Henry, because it really is in the city, just like Camp Henry is. Like it's a giant army base in a giant city, basically.
Nice.
And there's plenty of transportation units there for sure. So hopefully you can help a bunch of soldiers there.
Yeah,
learn the trade too.
I see HET units out there,
Oh, yeah.
PLS. I'm not sure if there's any 915.
But yeah, so for everyone who wants to check out Sergeant Browning's YouTube channel, it is, if you search Seth Browning on YouTube, and we'll put a link to it in the comments for this show as well. But Sergeant Browning, want to thank you so much for coming by, and congratulations on your assignment, and good luck on your next step.
Thanks, Ross.
Yep, and thanks for listening to the Every Soldier Counts podcast. We will talk to you next time.